emotion is information.
Yes.
But often when it's uncomfortable emotion, we judge it. Our self-judgment comes in. Like, I don't want to feel this frustration, or I don't want to feel this. So the number one thing that I've like as a practice for myself, but also with women that I work with, is like, pause. This is information. How can you meet it with curiosity, not with the judgment?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Helen Mt Podcast. And we are so excited to have you here with us today. And we feel so privileged and honored that we get to share this space with you. So thank you for showing up and thank you for listening.
On today's episode, we have a beautiful and heartfelt conversation with Allison Villa. Here are some of the topics that we will be covering. What called Allison to become a therapist? Supporting women to stand in their authentic self. What normalizing grief means. The balance of the feminine and masculine and what they represent. The wisdom our bodies hold. Supporting romantic relationships and your sexuality. And how childhood trauma and experiences can be let go.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. I was thinking, Allison, I'm thinking Allison's like, what? I feel like I need my workbook.
Yeah. Well, we're ready. Yeah. And hopefully we will get to all of that.
I know. But these are some of the topics that we can cover. But I know as I'm reading them, thinking, we should,
I know. And we also were thinking, we don't know if you specialize in this, but another thing we were talking about the other day was about Imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And we wondered if we just thought, I wonder if you know about that. But before we get into that, do you want to just tell our listeners a little bit about you and what it is that you do?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, that was such a lovely intro. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm so happy to be here in person with you.
Yeah.
Both. Well, yes, I am a psychotherapist. I've been a relationship expert for most of my 13 years in private practice. And I'm a mom of two daughters. And so I really bring that into my work. And I very much believe in continuing to evolve, whether that's in your personal world or in your professional world. And I've just more recently been allowing that for myself. Like, I'm allowed to grow within my professional world as well, which we'll get to today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we found you. I was in LA and I was on Instagram, and I don't know if you followed me or I can't remember what it was. And right away, I messaged MT and said, look at this site and look at this. And then she looked and she goes, oh my God, I love her. And I said, can we ask her if she would be on the show? And thankfully you said yes. But your platform, even that you have on Instagram, is so beautiful and it really draws you in, and you can feel, even when you came in, like there's this authenticness about you that's so lovely.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. You just mentioned something now that you allowed yourself to grow. Mm-hmm. So did you go through something where you just actually said to yourself, like, I am allowing myself to grow? Or is it something that you always kind of worked with all your life?
Well, thank you. That's a great question. Yeah. So in the professional realm as a therapist, I became really great at working with couples and felt really passionate specifically about supporting couples and keeping their relationship thriving after having kids. And so I really devoted my online programs, my memberships, my private practice to that cause and to that mission. And then throughout COVID, things started to shift. And, we all grew. Yeah, we all learned so many things through that period of time. And also at that time, that's when our family, we chose to leave Toronto after living here for over 20 years, and we moved to the country. And so with that type of big move, there was a lot of internal growth that accompanied the external change. And with that, I realized I'm really craving, because after being apart from people for so long during COVID and doing so much virtual work which my practice has always been virtual. I've always done that even before COVID. Yeah. But it just it highlighted how much I wanted to be with people. And specifically, I wanted to be around women. I wanted that warmth that you're describing. I craved that. And you can only get so much from the virtual world. And And so I thought, I'm like, okay, I gotta be with women. And women are doing so much unpacking during this time.
Yes.
Specifically mothers that's who I was working with, right?
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, there's something here. Like there's some messages coming in. If I'm wanting this, other people must be wanting this too. And so that's where just even in the past year, I have created Phoenix Collective, Phoenix Rising, which is specifically geared to empowering women and helping them have steps when they're going through change.
So is it an in-person kind of program, or is it women can do it at home, or like how does...
It melds both worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Phoenix Collective, I usually run like 2 to 3 events per year in person. So we're gathering together. But then in between, we have virtual online events, which is super cool because some people do this incredibly like deep work together in group in Phoenix Rising, and then they meet each other in person. And there's even more depth because of the work. So it's melding both of those worlds.
So when you said messages, you were sort of the messages were coming in. Was that you connecting? Like, was that higher? Was that spirit? Was that
all of the above?
All of the above.
Yeah. Usually my wisdom comes from my body.
So what does that feel like? What does that look like?
Yeah. So, like when I'm noticing tension or I'm something, we all have these messages, right?
Yeah.
You know when something in your life is working really well and you've chosen it and you've built it intentionally, and then slowly over time you might get these like whispers, I like to call them, or little nudges, that is like, this something's not working. But in your brain is really rational. Your brain is like, but I chose this and it's working. And then all of a sudden you get to a point where it's no longer a whisper and you cannot ignore it.
Yeah.
It's like a feeling inside of you, or something has just felt too heavy for too long.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what can someone do when they have this feeling? Like what did you do? Or what can I do if I'm feeling this?
So I really love to think of emotion as information.
Yeah.
So this is really, it's so key. So often we have an emotion, like a heavy feeling, a frustrating feeling, like something that brings up discomfort. We're having a real moment here, folks. It's okay.
Sorry. It's an emergency contact. It just doesn't, Okay.
It wouldn't be a show without your phone.
I know, right? And I did message everyone. I'm on a podcast.
No worries. Is there an emergency? Are we okay?
No, we're all good. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay. So emotion is information.
Yes.
But often when it's uncomfortable emotion, we judge it. Our self-judgment comes in. Like, I don't want to feel this frustration, or I don't want to feel this. So the number one thing that I've like is a practice for myself, but also with women that I work with, is like, pause. This is information. How can you meet it with curiosity, not with the judgment? And so curiosity and compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes.
Fear, I think, is a biggest block.
But I love that. I've been reading a lot lately, and we spoke about this, about the curiosity, because when you're curious, you open instead of judging where you close, right? So that curiosity is more expansive and just like, what is going on? And you're curious about it. So I love that. Yeah. And the curiosity brings in, why is this scaring me?
Yeah. So I agree. So once you have the curiosity, like, how can you not just sit in that because the other blocks are more powerful? Do you understand? Like the fear, like how do you allow that curiosity to work in your favor?
On fear, like when we understand fear is there to keep us safe in the world, safe from harm, which is our brain's number one job.
Yeah.
At all times, wanting us to be safe physically and safe emotionally. And so fear is telling us something is making us feel unsafe. And so it's actually, to your point, MT, it's actually really difficult to make decisions when we are in fear because our body is in stress response.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you want that curiosity to open up your mindset to work in your favor. But how do you plow through that?
Well, we don't plow through.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Yeah. How do you tiptoe or dance?
Yes,
Dance through it.
How do we dance through it? I love that. So the fear, again, it's information. And I will always say when we experience fear, like we don't act from that place.
Yes.
This is not a place to take action from.
Yeah.
And so the pause is the first essential step, is to pause. And one of the tools that we work with in Phoenix Rising is nervous system regulation, right? Really practical tools. How can we help ourselves become regulated again? So like right now, we're having a conversation. We're regulated. But when we're dysregulated, we can't access that clarity, right? That we seek.
Yes.
So physical things in the body, like even simple things, like right now, if you guys try this with me.
Oh, yeah.
So we're just like gently like stroking our hands as if we're putting on gloves.
Okay.
Right? So this is just like a simple soothing technique. You can even do this in a social setting. If you're feeling nervous about something, nobody would really notice. Like you could just do it really slowly, very subtly.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes people like to tap. You can tap anywhere on the body consistently, and that can help you. I know a lot of people do the tapping technique. There's multiple ways, but how to regulate yourself, and you get to figure out like, oh yeah, like fill your toolbox. Give yourself multiple options. Yeah. I'm a big fan of the 5 senses. What are you hearing in this moment? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? What's the temperature on your skin? Right? It brings you in the moment. Fear often accelerates.
So would you ever, I know for myself personally, when I feel fear come in, for me, it paralyzes me, which I'm sure it does for a lot of people. But sometimes what I'll do is go, okay, what is it? And I'll talk to my fear. And I'll just say, what are you trying to show me? What am you? And with that, like it's almost like I make friends with it.
I love that.
And ask it for its guidance. And then when I understand where it's coming from, I'm like, okay, you've done your job. I'm going to ask you to leave now. Right? And I try to sort of, instead of like, oh my God, fear. No, don't want to feel fear. Again, trying that expansiveness with it.
I love that.
That's a good way of looking at it.
So all of this also brings it back to being authentic, your authentic self, these techniques that you're doing.
Yeah, really listening to yourself because you are always changing and evolving. And so how you build your life also does need to like shift with you. So, but does that, if you're not living your authentic life, is that when all of this starts to creep in? Do you find? Yeah. That's often when like we notice heaviness, depression, that's repressed emotion.
Yes.
There's something that needs to move through you. So you may know this, like I love to dance. I love to move my body. I was a professional singer dancer in my 20s. But moving to music for me helps emotion to move through my body. But that can look different for everyone. I know you were talking about your yoga, how much you love it, right? It's emotion moves through our bodies. If we are still and stagnant, a lot of us sit for work, right?
Yes.
We need to move, not just for our physical well-being. It's directly related to the emotional well-being.
Yeah, and in that movement, you visualize that whatever you came before the movement or into the yoga room, you leave behind. So you shake it out of your body. I leave it in the room, and I walk out with that weight off my shoulders.
I love that. Yeah.
And so like as women, we wear a lot of hats. Right?
And you were wearing a fabulous one, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's right. As mothers, as friends, as daughters, partners, colleague, how do we find our authentic self or who we really are when we're wearing all those hats or in all those roles? Like, how do we do that?
That's hard. It's a good question.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, because being the caregiver, being in multiple roles, and I think you're asking, like, does that take us away from ourselves?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And I wonder if it can both of those pieces exist together. Our relationship with self is the most important relationship that we have, right? So when I'm describing like going inwards or going quiet or listening to the cues from my body, that's maintaining my relationship with me so that then I can be in relationship with others.
But how often do we put that aside to meet the needs of the other roles that we have.
Oh, so often.
Right? Exactly.
Oh, it's a constant practice, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, can we normalize that we will need to continue bringing ourselves back again and again?
Mm-hmm.
And we're not doing a bad job if we
Exactly.
have to keep doing it.
And I find that as I'm aging, or the older I get, the more I'm able to have my true self present in all the roles that I carry in my life. Whereas before, I would put that aside, like, 10 years ago, and be a people pleaser. Now I can still please people, but maintaining my self-love, my self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because I imagine, I don't know what, like even in business or sometimes that we do have to compromise or we do have to sort of bite our tongue or just smile. And then what do you do when you leave that situation, right? Like don't beat yourself up over it and just be like, okay, that's what you had to do.
I think some of those social norms are acceptable unless you're changing who you are altogether.
I don't know. I know sometimes in work, I think it's, or even like Deepak Chopra talks about that we're always we're in situations that maybe we don't like crowds or we don't like a certain thing, but we have to survive. We have to live. But what it is that you do with that, like that's why he always suggests at the end of the day, releasing, right? So where was I not authentic? Where did I have to go, bite my tongue and that didn't feel good.
Yeah.
And what do you do? Like release that and don't, I think what you were saying, like don't beat yourself up for it. It's okay. Like we have to survive, you know?
Yes. How to meet yourself with compassion.
Yes.
And I think also to feel like that you are in choice, right?
Okay.
That you're aware. And sometimes we're not aware till after that we've had some sort of a stress response and like, oh, I did that thing where I just said yes and I wanted to say no, right? Like, and again, meeting yourself with compassion and allowing that to be a lesson. It's like you understanding yourself more deeply from that information that came in, right?
Yeah. I would love to hear a little bit. Sorry, Helen.
No, you go. Yeah.
You talked about, before we started this podcast, a topic about imposter syndrome. And I really want to hear more about this before our podcast is finishing to make sure we have time for it. So I really didn't understand that phrase until you and I spoke about it a few days ago. And it's resonated with me. So I think I would like to hear from you and from Alison exactly what is imposter syndrome and how it affects us and what we can do about it.
Can you say more about when you say imposter syndrome, what is it you are referring to?
Actually, it's a good question. I think you and I talked a little bit about it. I think feeling maybe that I'm not as good as I think I am in my work. I hear like incredible things and I always doubt it, thinking, oh, I don't think I'm that good, or always needing validation from others.
Or for me, it's like you're going to be found out. You know, like someone's going to find out that, oh, maybe you're not as kind or as good or as successful or,
How can you define imposter syndrome?
You're both doing it so beautifully.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the feeling that you are going to be discovered as not living up to how you imagine others perceive you.
Got it.
And it's such a survival instinct, very common for women.
Yes.
When we learned from a very young age to please, right?
Yeah.
And not to be in judgment of that. Like that also has equaled safety in the world for us over centuries and time.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so again, meeting that with compassion. MT, when you said when people are giving you this incredible feedback, what happens for you?
Now I actually can say, yeah, I think I am that because I see it. But before it's like, no, you really don't know that I'm not that good. I'm just winging it. Or it's just, I know my talent is strong, but I always feared or felt that there's more for me to learn. To be that person that they think I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's, as women too, Allison, you tell me, but there's that, if you just say, well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're conceited. You're full of yourself, right? I mean, I think that's why that monologue in the Barbie movie struck a chord with so many women, because it was like, be good, but not too good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Be secure, but not too secure. Be pretty, but and it was all that. And I think as women, there's that always that push and pull with us.
Yes. Yeah. I have so many thoughts right now.
Yeah.
The first word that is coming to my mind is like the ability to receive.
Yeah.
And ultimately, right, we're designed to receive. And it's really difficult to receive and believe.
What do you mean we're designed to receive?
Well, like when we speak about masculine and feminine energy,
Yeah.
the feminine energy is to receive and to hold.
Okay.
Where the masculine energy is to be in action, to be doing.
Okay.
Okay.
Right? So our society is designed to reward masculine energy, to be productive. And I will say rest is productive, to be clear.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like we're all
Yes.
taught, like I can't sit still. I got to do. But by extension, it's also to receive feedback, to receive like this positive feedback, how to really believe it and take it in. Go ahead.
So it sounds like it's like women need more reinforcements, feedback, verbal praise more than men. Is that what I'm hearing, or which actually I kind of do believe though. But I don't understand the receiving part.
Do you feel, if I look at you and I say, Allison, I think you're beautiful and the work that you are doing is so, are you able to receive that and just go, thank you? Or is there a little part of you, it's like, oh my God, like, you don't really know, or thank you, but then, right? Are you able to just receive that?
At this moment today, yes.
Yes.
I can receive that.
Yeah.
Okay. But there are other moments where you can't.
Oh, like 20 years ago, no way.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what did you do to help yourself get to this point?
It's it's all these like simple, small practices.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the consistent practices that we have with ourselves, noticing how am I talking to myself? Also, to be clear, I've been doing my own therapy for over 25 years,
Yeah.
right? Being in theater school, that's like also like really looking at a lot of emotional stuff. Then going to therapy school, you know, like
it is like therapy theater school.
it really
right?
is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, but I've always like both of you, like you're interested in personal development and personal growth. It's fascinating.
Yes.
Right? So like continuing that as a practice, and I'm sitting here and I'm clearly in progress and will always be in process. But I am continuing to work on receiving. I'll share something with you. So yesterday was the closing ceremony for the fall session of Phoenix Rising. So Phoenix Rising is my 90-day transformation process, and we do group work weekly, and then I meet with each person individually as well. So Tuesday was our closing group session. And during the session, I ask each woman to come and be ready to receive. So each woman will have a moment of receivership where the other women in the group gift them with how they have benefited from their sharing and the wishes that they have for each woman. And I will say, this is also new for me. So we're speaking about receiving. I have allowed myself to be part of the receiving. And I say to them, like I repeat it multiple times. Like, I want you to know this is very difficult for me to receive, because when I'm the holder of space, right? As the guide, as the mentor.
Yes.
That is a place where it's more difficult for me to receive.
Yes.
But it is, I will say, because I'm just on recently being on that receivership, I actually needed it so much.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because in that role, you're therapists aren't you're not allowed to give a therapist feedback. You're not. That's the thing. But I don't believe that, to be clear.
Yeah.
And that's some of the rules I'm breaking, if you will, because I need to practice what I'm preaching too, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like from you, I can receive in this moment, but I think it's so dependent on each relationship.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
And do you find that, I know when MT and I were talking about imposter syndrome, also if you've had childhood trauma or you haven't had that stability growing up or abuse in your family, it really triggers that also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will say, having worked with women who have experienced that and who are like, have living incredible lives, that still remains.
Yeah.
Because it is a practice. It's not something, like trauma is not something that I don't know if we ever fully release. We can make sense of it. We can recognize where it shows up. We can walk with it.
Yes.
That's important. So yeah, that's actually a very good point that never really leaves us.
Yeah.
We just handle it differently or we see it differently.
Yeah.
Or it comes up and you just sort of go, oh, okay, I know what that is.
Yeah.
I know why that's coming up. And just go, and just sometimes even that recognizing it is just like, it can just sort of, we'll go back, you know, withdraw a little bit. And then there are times where it's overpowering and you have to go, okay, I need to call my therapist or my best friend or do something to release it. Yeah. That's so interesting. You speak about the wisdom that our bodies hold.
Yeah.
Do you want to expand on that and share? Because I love that. Because there's that expression that our body knows the truth and that our body always wins. Yeah.
This one, it's so interesting. I almost find it difficult to put into words because it's such a felt experience. And I actually would love to reflect this question to each of you and
think about it.
In your own life where you've recognized your body giving you messages.
You can go.
I'll start. I know the number one thing is that it's my breathing, my shorter breath, yawning a lot.
Oh.
Yeah. And I've come to realize that it's definitely a result of not anxiety. I don't really have anxiety, but more the stress of work or go. And I don't give myself that time to sit and unwind. So I find myself holding my breath more, my breathe, like shorter breath. And that's the biggest thing for me. And I've come to realize that more so.
That's so amazing. And now when it comes in, you notice these series of pieces of information.
Exactly. I actually open a window and breathe in and let it out.
I love that.
Because I feel it.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, I'm at that point. Time to fix this.
I love that. What I love about what you're describing is that you are listening.
Yes.
That you notice it. And then also you're listening to the wisdom in that moment is like, I need fresh air.
Yeah.
I need to open the window.
Yeah,
right?
And I think today, that's why I craved yoga so much today. And I try to squeeze it in because it's the one place where I know I have to focus on my breathing versus sitting at my desk and doing more work. And I think and I've been feeling shorter breath lately. So you, Helen?
Ask me the question again.
What are some moments in your day or in your life where you have been able to listen to the information that your body is giving you?
I think when you touch rest is something that I'm noticing more for me, that I need rest. You know, and even like we were talking, I'm going to cry. Sorry, with our dog passing. Like I came home and I'm like, I just want to go to bed. Like I just wanted to curl up in bed and cry, right? And then the next day, like yesterday, I was like so tired and I went to bed again. Like I went to bed at 8 and my husband's like, 8? And he said, Helen, you're going to be up. And I'm like, no, like even if I just lie in bed and read or journal or like just rest is one of the things where I never used to do that. I would plow through because I felt that rest was a weakness.
Yeah.
Right. And then now I'm like realizing like, no, like I need to rest. It's away from my body. And I'm a vivid dreamer too. And I believe that my guides and spirits come in too, and when we sleep. So part of me looks forward to that, and some of it I remember, and some of it I don't, because maybe I'm not supposed to, or it'll sort of show itself in other ways. But I think rest is one of those ways for me, for myself to recover.
You said that you used to look at rest as a weakness. I can see how you and I both, or you especially, is that when we're not resting and we're go, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to really deal with anything that you're feeling. But you're at a point now where you're allowing yourself to say, I'm going to sit and feel what I feel. And, and resting is the only way you can do that.
Yeah. Now it's your turn to tell us.
But I want to touch on something you just shared, which I think is really relevant.
Okay.
And this like deep grief, right, is, and again, like your brain is always wanting to keep you safe in the world. And like just so beautiful that you're listening.
Yes.
And that like there's so much to process. And even when we process something emotionally, cognitively, it requires a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that your body needs to restore.
Right.
There's and I understand, like seemingly nothing is happening, but so much is happening.
Yes.
So much internally, right?
How can we normalize that grief?
Oh, well, I could go on about grief. There's like, it is like with
I
us
would
all
love
the time.
to have you back. Because I am fascinated. I love talking about death. And I think that we need to change the conversation around death. And I've lost both my brothers. And so death is something that I'm quite familiar with. And I think that we should have you back and just talking about grieving and death, because I think people need more. I think they need a better way to be able to sort of feel comfortable with it and not feel that they're weak or get over it or whatever it is that those patriarchal messages that we get.
Yes. And like grief is the passing of a human or a living being and soul, but it's also present in grieving of self, right? A sense of self changing, the grieving of a relationship.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many ways that we, again, walk with grief.
Oh, I like that. You had that. You went through that, a grieving of yourself.
Yeah, I did. And it was the most powerful experience that I've ever been through, and it was probably the best. It really was. So I don't look at it as like, I never want to go back there again. It was such a hard but beautiful process. Yeah.
Well, I think, and we've spoken a lot where when you can stay in that uncomfortable, there's so many gifts.
There's so much. I say it often, from discomfort comes growth.
Yeah,
exactly.
What has been one of the biggest growth periods for you?
Oh, there's been so many. I will say this move from city to country.
Yeah.
And during what was happening in the world, was extremely transformative. Just like awareness of myself, tuning into just realizing how we are all nature, and how I wasn't connected. I wasn't connected to that part of me until I was immersed in it, right? Like seeing the stars at night, like literally seeing the moon and understanding, oh, like I have a cycle and it is similar to that. And like all
forest bathing,
literally forest bathing. Yeah.
So it's almost like, it's like your rest, and you needed that away from the city life and be
as much as I love the city.
I know.
I love it.
Yeah. And being that quiet and slower pace.
Yes.
To understand that.
To receive.
Yeah.
Like wisdom, put pieces together, make connections. Yes. The slowness.
And they're all, I know it sounds crude, but they're all free. Like Mother Nature is like, here you go.
Yeah.
Right? Even like when the wind blows and you're just like, when you can just stop and feel it and take it in, or like it's so powerful. And we talk about that as we get older. I crave nature more. Where when I was younger, I mean, maybe I don't know if I did, but I find now that I crave it, that connection to it.
I think I've always had it in me.
Yeah.
Because I was always able to go into nature, being up north, etc. And that's why living in the city is okay for me, because I have opportunities to go on weekends and to get out. Yeah. If I didn't have that, and I speak about this with Kevin, if I didn't have that, I don't think I'll be living in mid-Toronto.
Yeah. Did you find when you and the family moved to the country, because you don't have all the distractions of the city and all the noise, were there things in your relationship, like with your partner or even with your kids, that all of a sudden were like, oh, I didn't notice this before? It could be good or not. Like, it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but
there's a lot more together time.
Yeah.
And so that like magnifies, to your point, both the positive and the challenging pieces in relationship.
Yeah.
Yes. And since moving up north, like I've shared this publicly before, but my husband and I have had like the hardest years of our relationship.
Yeah.
Because of, I love it, everyone's being human here. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. This is the space.
Yeah. Yeah. But because of like his experience of COVID, like this happened to all of us, but everyone's experience is so unique. And as each person in relationship grows and evolves, it changes the relationship. So he went through his thing, I was going through mine. And like, yeah, there was some big questions around like, are we meant to keep doing this? Right? And and is it supposed to look this way?
Yes.
Or is there another way it's supposed to look? Right? Like big. And I think it's so important to keep asking those big questions, to not avoid them.
Yeah.
But to look at them, because then you can feel like, okay, I'm choosing this.
Yes.
Right?
Do you mind me asking how old you are?
I'm 44.
You're 44.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel that I feel with my husband, my kids, my work, that I think when I was younger, I would blame other people if I wasn't happy, where now I take that time, because they're not doing anything different. So I sort of take that time and go, okay, am I, not taking care of myself? Do I need to go out with MT? Do I need to work out? Or do I need to have the courage to say, okay, the dishes in the sink are driving me crazy, whatever it is, right? To have the courage to have that uncomfortable conversation where I realize like that's my responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I think that sometimes in relationships, a lot of people just blame the other person or say, well, if you did this, if you did that, instead of sort of taking that reflection on yourself too.
The saying, no one's responsible for your happiness but yourself. So it's only you that can be happy with yourself. And nothing else is responsible.
Yeah. You have another Phoenix Rising event coming up in the new year?
And then, yes, but I haven't announced anything yet, so stay tuned.
Oh, okay. Okay. And it must fill up quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you summarize like 3 goals for women who want to be part of this Phoenix Rising program?
So right, Phoenix Collective events haven't been announced yet, but Phoenix Rising, which is the 90-day transformation, yes, we are enrolling now for the January session.
Okay.
Yes.
And so 3 things for someone to come out of this program to hold on to?
Number one is meeting yourself with compassion.
I love that.
And a question to keep asking yourself is, how is this story serving me?
Right? I love that.
Because we often, we love the familiar.
Yep.
Even though the familiar might not feel good.
Yes.
But there's something about it that is serving us.
What's that woman, Byron something? And she says, I'll find it and I'll send it to you. I heard her once on Oprah. And she said, who would you be without that story? And that's where she kind of leads her conversations with people. Like, if you could let go of that story, what's the real issue? or who would, how would that relationship be with yourself or others?
I like that.
Because that really highlights
Yeah.
why it's serving you and why you want to hang on to it.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The third piece I will say is like, let it be fun. Oh my gosh. Can we have more play and pleasure, please?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that also this work that we do on ourselves, it can be those things.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be heavy. And like, I can't tell you, there's a lot of laughter in my sessions. Like,
Good.
Which is great.
there's both tears and laughter,
Yeah.
and that this can exist. All of these pieces can exist together.
Yes.
It brings up a thought what you just said, and that when you explain to some people, I'm in this process of growth, or I'm going into this period where I'm just journaling more or self-care, and without getting the judgment from others, like, oh, you're going through that. Like, what does that really mean? Or like, really, do you need that?
Mm.
So you get both. Those are like, wow, tell me about that. That's powerful. And you get the others like, I don't get it.
Yeah. And some people won't get it.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Mhm.
And actually, we discuss that a lot through Phoenix Rising, is that as you change, every person has a different timeline.
Yeah.
And you, most times, you don't exactly align with growth,
Yes.
like with others.
Yeah.
And so it's you get to decide, the loving boundaries that you can create that support your growth and still allow you to be in relationship should you choose those relationships, right?
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
As we start to wrap up, we have some questions
Yes.
for you. They're not light.
Yeah.
They probably should be light as you're leaving, but what do you think happens when we die?
Oh, I think our souls continue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we are deeply connected to nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's all
Beautiful.
interconnected.
Number 2, what does wisdom mean to you?
Listening.
Listening. Yeah.
Mm.
It's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you must be good at that with the work that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listening to others and listening to yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have like a word or a mantra that you live by?
It is from discomfort comes growth.
Yeah.
I live by
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you describe your perfect day?
Oh,
Yeah.
Besides being here with us.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so interesting though, but like having these types of conversations,
Yeah.
they light me up.
Yes.
You both have chosen this work
Yeah.
because you get it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when you think about work, I don't even.
It's not
It's
work.
vocation. That's
Yeah.
it. It's like
Not
you
work.
get to.
Yeah.
And so my perfect day is a mix of many things. I would say chicken chores.
Yeah.
And
Chicken chores.
Because how many chickens do you have?
we have 20 chickens.
That's amazing.
And they lay rainbow eggs, which we have hand selected because they
Wow.
each lay different color eggs, and they bring me great joy to see them on my counter.
Is that
my gosh.
rainbow on the outside, or like, is that a stupid
The shell?
question? Like, is
is the
the
rainbow?
yolk always yellow, or is it changed color?
I'm thinking that's a perfect
We're
time to
city
lay the
slickers.
eggs at Easter. I have no idea.
We're
Yeah.
such city slickers right now,
probably.
So each hen lays a different color egg.
Okay.
Really?
Yes.
I had no idea that that's
Yes.
actually a
That's
thing.
very
Yeah, they're called
cool.
heritage hens.
Oh.
Wow.
So they each lay different color eggs, which means that when they're in a bowl, then
So can you pick what chickens you want? Because I want pink eggs. I want blue
Yes.
eggs. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
exactly what it is.
Okay. Do you leave your eggs? Because when we were in Europe,
Mhm.
nobody puts
them
eggs
in
in
the
the
fridge.
fridge. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody has them on the counter.
That's right.
So you can
Why?
leave yours on because it's
The bloom on the egg is it protects the egg from spoiling, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah. So as long as the egg is clean, when it comes out and it's laid in hay and there isn't any, it hasn't been compromised in any way, you don't
Yeah.
actually have to wash eggs. But eggs that come from the store, they have certain conditions or standards where they need to be washed with certain
right.
chemicals.
Wow.
Okay. So taking care of your chickens.
Chickens. Yes.
Then-
Well, I will say though, first thing in the morning, I'm a big snuggler, lots of snuggles. The whole family snuggles. Okay. Then we go out, chicken chores. Right now we're in the season where we need to make sure the wood stove is stocked. So like, some wood, get the wood stocked, get it going. It's very cozy and warm. And then, and then start our day, like having these amazing conversations with the people I work with lights me up. And then having lunch with my husband. Lately, I've been really into working out in the afternoons. I just do home workouts. And then I've been doing river dips. So
like a cold plunge.
Cold plunge.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what has been calling to me more recently. Yeah. And I'm not like super hardcore about it.
Yeah.
But like I listen to like, what is my body? What does it want today?
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it changes every day what my perfect day would be. I'm just describing that more recently.
Yeah. That's for
Yeah. And I like, cozy time at home, time to cook dinner, time at home together as a family.
Yes.
And then early to bed.
Oh, I love that's the best.
It is.
Yeah.
We were giggling about that where we used to hear people going to bed at 9:30 and you're like, oh my God, never, I can't.
Late.
And now it's like, I love it.
Yeah, but my daughters at their age will say to me, like, Mommy, we don't go out during the week. We like to go to bed or to stay home. It's like, oh, then, and they're young.
Yeah.
So they're getting that.
But I think more people are understanding the importance of sleep
Oh, yeah.
and respecting that, right? I mean, it's so good for everything.
I love my sleep.
Yeah. You are
thank you.
just beautiful on every level. And thank you for taking the journey to come here and to be here with us. And it was just a gorgeous
so
conversation.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah,
and we would love to have you back to talk about grief. I think that would be a really special conversation.
It would be my pleasure.
And you can bring eggs.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, right now, fun fact, they don't lay as much right now because the days are shorter.
Right.
So have me back in the spring, Easter. That's why it's called an Easter egg hunt.
Day affect?
Because they don't eat as much. And so they don't have as much energy.
Oh.
And if we're laying eggs to reproduce, then a mama doesn't want to raise chicks in cold weather.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Isn't it like Mother Nature?
I know.
It's so fascinating.
Endless lessons. Endless.
It's just fascinating. I love that. Okay. So thank you again for being here. In our show notes, we'll have all your contact information. So if people are interested in any of your courses, do you still do like one-on-one psychotherapy with people?
You do.
I do. I'm accepting couples at this time.
Okay.
But my one-on-one is full.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And to our listeners, thank you for being here. We want you to know how incredible you are, and we look forward to sharing this space with you again on our next episode. Until then.
Hi.